So as I told you earlier that I try to keep working on these poses, but just in case if I need to make amends, I will do that later. And since this is a very important part of the workflow, it has to be done. I can make a pose, but never say that, yes, this is the best pose and this pose is what I was looking for. No. I started with a very basic idea and worked my way through with a lot of trial and errors. A preliminary research is always necessary and good, otherwise, without pre-production, it's almost impossible to start production. Since we are all in the learning process which never ends, so when we stumble and fall, we need to get up until it's done. It's kind of like that for, all the things. Also, yeah, taking critic is like the most important part. Once you're satisfied with your shot, or you need, another set of eyes to look at it and give you ideas, that's when you need the critic. While working on a shot, we keep looking at it for like days or, sometimes even months. So after some time, we get adjusted to the movement and the timing, and we can't figure out if we're doing it right. So it's always better to call someone and ask if this is right or what changes should be made. Not only then you get to come back and work on your favorite shots to make it better, but the final result looks even more awesome. Alright, that looks okay. This fall down pose or the ground connect pose is way up high. So let's go ahead and open our graph editor. This is like the command center for our battle to get our animation done right. Very important panel. Let's move the y-axis down a bit so that the last key connects to the ground. His pose needs to connect to the ground in the last frame here. Remember to select all the body controls here, as we need like a smooth arc. I know you must be thinking, it's a robot, why do we need all these smooth arc poses? That completely depends on the director. If he says that okay, these are completely mechanical, then I would go and work on it, keeping in mind that it's only a robot. Here I am the director, so I like to think that these alien robots are aliens, or their bodies are embedded armor, which kind of twists and turns, so it's not completely mechanical. Hence the answer to your question. So let's go ahead and pull this leg up a little bit because he's going to connect to the ground on the left leg. As I told you earlier, this is the contact pose to the ground. The next pose will be the squash pose. So let's put the hand a little bit up because he needs to stop himself using his fire thrusters. Maybe fire thrusters, maybe those things come in effect, so we'll just keep in mind that he uses some kind of thrusters to stop himself from the flight speed. Now, these breakdowns are really important. I'm kind of creating the poses in a better way so that I can get the better breakdowns here. As you can see here, the keys are pretty much in a random position in the timeline here. I was much worried about the timing, but until now, because I need to start creating the breakdown poses, and especially while creating those, I need to make sure that I get some kind of timing done right. So let's move the flight keys a little bit closer so we can get a fast movement. I'm roughly checking the timing here. While I played a couple of times, I would get an idea of the actual speed that I would require. Actually kind of looks okay, but obviously this is going to change a lot later. Okay, now we need the help of the 2D panel to check out the pose we talked about, the landing stance. Alright, zooming in here. So as you can see here, this is the final pose that I'm planning to use for the landing. This is like I divided the whole animation into two parts, like a flight and landing, and then the action pose. So the poses here, were like the initial ideas, but later on, after some research online, found some better poses, which would, match the shot that I have in mind. Alright, I've captured this the stance in my mind, and now I will try to get that here in the character. Let's see how that goes. Don't worry if you don't hit it right away. Working on the poses might take longer than you thought it would, sometimes even hours. But never, lose heart, because animation is not something you do, in haste. It needs a lot of time. You have to give time for animation. Take a lot of critics from others. Ask your friend if the pose is right or wrong, Record yourself and try to get that pose in the character. So now I'm just trying to get the pose that I have in mind, the pose that I drew there with the help of the almighty internet. Let's see. Since this is a proxy model, sometimes it might be difficult to get to the actual pose, because it is obviously made out of square blocks, so it's a bit difficult to get the right pose, because we might not know how the actual robot would look if I pose the proxy model like this. But we'll keep looking at it. Let's rotate him up here a little bit. Right now the hands are in FK, and I'm not worried about that. The left hand should be in IK, because he needs to connect to the ground, and the hand is going to stay connected to the ground until he gets up. He needs to push himself up for the run cycle. But right now I'm not even worried about that. Right now I'm just worried about the poses that if I'm getting it right or wrong. Alright, now that looks like a pretty cool landing stance. Now while in this pose, he's going to hold the spear sideways. Let me illustrate that. Something like this. The upper part would be, the pointy end of the spear here. That actually looks like a pretty cool pose right there. Okay. Before moving forward, let's go ahead and select all the keys and fix some of the timing here. We know that the speed of flight will be more, and the air pose would slow down till he reaches the hang time. So by the end of the hang time, we start to see him fall quite fast to the ground into the hero pose. Alright, that looks okay. Let's try to go ahead and play it back here. Nope. Let's shift the keys after the slowdown. Scrubbing through here. I'm seeing from the profile if everything looks right. I think we can move some of these poses a bit to the front, as the speed is great, so there needs to be some sort of, forward movement to it. So, let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to select this slower control and move it forward, the contact pose here. And even this pose I need to move a little forward. Alright, let's go ahead and play it back. Okay. Doesn't look that bad at all. Now every once in a while, as I'm working in the blocking phase, I change it from linear to spline, just to see how things are looking. Oh, whoops, we forgot to change the global control here. Let's go ahead and change that to autotangent. Autotangent kind of changes the curves from step to a mix of spline and plateau. Okay, that kind of looks interesting, but we definitely need to change the timing and all that.